Okay, so let's quickly go through the three T's we learned about in our last or during our last reading session. We talked about the important keys Please get me a black ink. Thank you. All right, so talking about the bracket trick, we learned that it is the practice of putting in bracket a part of your answer that you're not so sure about, right? In reading tests, we don't apply the bracket trick when you are treating a section that says man, one word and a number, right? What might be the reason? Do you know? Mm-hmm. So just write it. Hyphen. Okay. With a bracket. Okay, thank you. Do you know the reason we don't apply the bracket trick when you're treating a section that says no more than one word or a number in reading test? Okay, instruction. Okay. Please, let's understand the reason. The reason we don't apply the bracket trick in reading tests when we are treating a section that says no more than one word and or a number is because in listening test, for instance, when you are listening to the audio and you are reading alongside, it's written on your question paper or on the screen, and you hear the word pronounced by the audio, which you feel is a potential answer, you might be a little confused about the form of the word that has just been pronounced. For instance, you might want to consider if that word was pronounced in a singular form or in a plural form. So in listening tests, you tend to write the singular version of the word and put the plural indicator in bracket. Do you understand this? So when you hear a word such as bees, the z may not be so pronounced. So you don't want to take the risk of writing B alone, whereas what the IELTS examiners expect is bees. So what you do, you write B, B-E-E, then in bracket, put your S. So when you are applying the bracket trick around the word, where the instruction says no more than one word and or a number, you are trying to consider whether the word should be in a singular form or plural. So you're making use of the bracket trick just to stay safe. Please, do you understand this? But in reading tests, we don't apply it. The reason is because when you read through a sentence or a paragraph and find an answer, and the instruction says write no more than one word and or a number, that word you have just found in the sentence is so perfect in the form used in the sentence structure. So there is no need to consider whether you want to put any S or something around it, because the word used is very perfect in that form. So copy and paste. So if that word is meant to be in the singular form, you find it as a singular word in the sentence where you're going to pick it from. If it's supposed to be in a plural form, you find it as a plural word. Please, you understand this? That's the reason. So all you do when you're treating your reading tests, all you do, if the instruction says write no more than one word and a number, all you do is just to do your copy and paste, and that's all. So there is no need for the bracket trick. So we begin to apply the bracket trick from sections where instruction states that you should write no more than 2 words and or a number, as well as 3 words and or a number. I hope this is clear. And we also learned about the interpretation of this instruction. What does it mean? When an instruction says write no more than 2 words and or a number, what does it mean? It simply means your answer should not go beyond 2 words. That's the emphasis. However, it's not still compelling you to write 2 words all through. Rather, you are expected to consider the fact that some answers under a section that instruction says no more than 2 words and the number can come as 1 word. Some can be 1 word and the number, some can be 2 words, some can be 2 words and the number, then others can be just a number without a word. Then we went further to understand how to apply a bracket trick when you find your 2 words answer. So first, you want to understand what the question is looking out for. So if the question is seeking to see you write the main idea, the noun, that means when you have a 2-word answer extracted or gotten or found from the passage, maybe the answer says something like brown sugar. Brown sugar is a 2-word answer. So out of brown and sugar, if the question is seeking to know the main idea right here, if it is about sugar, brown is just an adjective. So brown should be kept in brackets, while sugar should be left open. But if the question is asking to know the type of sugar, of course, you can't just write brown. You have to write brown sugar. However, the main idea right here is what? The brown. Do you understand the difference? So if the answer is seeking to know the type, then brown is the main answer. Sugar can be kept in brackets if you wish. Please, do you understand this? Now, if you go further to a section where instruction says, write no more than 3 words and or a number, the interpretation still follows the same approach. Emphasis is do not write more than 3 words. And you are not compelled by any policy or rule that your answer should come in 3 words or through. So what do you do? Consider that some answers can be 1 word. Some answers can be 2 words, 3 words, 1 word and a number, 2 words and a number, 3 words and a number. Some can be just a number without a word. So when you come across such sections or such instructions, what you basically need to do is to try to identify what the question is interested in. If it is the main idea and maybe the article. For instance, there are some words that you really need to put the article compulsorily. For instance, I need umbrella. Is that a correct expression? What's missing? An. I need an umbrella. So in this case, you might want to ensure that that article an has to appear. Right? So if you may not necessarily put it in brackets, but you can still leave it in bracket. It doesn't affect you in any way. Do you understand? So if you're treating such questions, and you find your answer, for instance, an iron umbrella. An iron umbrella is a 3-word answer, right? An iron umbrella. So in this case, how do you apply the bracket trick? What's the main answer here? Umbrella. What is describing the umbrella? Iron. How many umbrella are we talking about? One. And what is indicating that one? And. Do you understand the roles of each? So what is the question requiring? What does it want? Does the question require you to indicate the object? Or does it want you to identify the adjective, the descriptive idea of the umbrella? So these are things you want to find out from each question that would help you to determine how your bracket trick should be applied. Right? So that's it about the bracket trick. Then we went further to learn about the tips. And we learned that in reading tips, there are 2 major things you want to consider. The first is reading instructions before attempting any question, right? So, and we understood reasons you should do that. One, it will help you to know how your answers should come. Whether you're meant to write the letters of the alphabet, for instance, A, B, C, or D. So you don't need to copy what is written against the A, right? All you are expected is just write A. Because when you write what's written against it, your answer is automatically incorrect. Because the examiner is not going to start tracing what that thing stands for, whether it's for A or B or C, right? It will also help you to know if you are to write the Roman numerals as your answer. It will help you to know if you are to write true or false or not given, or if you're to write yes or no or not given. It will be written there. And one mistake a lot of test takers make during the reading test is when instruction says, confirm if the statement is true or false or not given. Some of us will write T or F or NG according to the instruction. Instruction never stated or says that you should write T or F or NG, right? It says write true or false or not given. So when you write this, what do you want the examiner to consider T to be? True? Is that the only word that T represents? It can mean anything. So when you do that, you are indirectly shooting yourself in the foot. So establish what the instruction says. T can be anything. F can be anything. NG can be anything. Let's take, for instance, NG can be Naira, right? Nigeria. It can be Ngozi. It can be anything. So why don't you just quickly write the full word so that you don't have any cause to fear? All right. Then the instruction, reading the instruction will also help you to know if a paragraph can solve 2 questions. We talked about that, right? And what is the specific information that helps you to identify that in this particular section, a paragraph is possibly going to answer 2 questions. When you see NB, note before, you may use any letter more than once. So whenever you read that, please bear in mind that a particular paragraph must solve 2 different questions. However, it may not necessarily follow each other. I want you to understand that. When there is a possibility that 2 answers can come from a paragraph, note that the 2 answers do not usually follow each other. How it can come in a particular number, maybe 2, for instance, and the next time it would solve another question, maybe question 5. So question 2 may be B, Question 5 may still be B. So those are things you want to know. Then it also helps you to know if you are to match headings and the likes. Now let's go to the second tip. It's like a formula. And that formula states Q's plus P plus Q equal to A. So this simply means questions plus passage plus question equal answer. So by this particular tip, you are strongly encouraged to take on your reading following the approach of reading the questions first. And the questions we are talking about right here are not or shouldn't be the entire questions from 1 to 40. No. We are talking about the question you are treating at that particular section you are working on. So in some cases, you find out that there are about 6 questions you need to answer at that particular section. So first and foremost, you should read the questions under that section you're treating. That's the 6 questions, for instance. Now, when you read these questions, what are you reading for? Are you reading to cram? Or you are reading to understand the questions? You are not reading for any of these two. You are rather reading to identify the keywords in each question. Because when you go to the passage, you won't see the exact words used in a passage, used in a question when you're reading a passage. You won't. But you would see that there are information in a passage that interpret or translate to those keywords you have read in a question section. So that will help you to establish that, okay, here is where I should have my answer from. So when you read those questions, identify the keywords, underline them, circle them, highlight them in each question. So that when you go to the passage, the brain picks interest at the point you are engaging those words that you feel are the keywords in each question. So when you are underlining, the brain finds it to be a thing of interest to you. So the brain picks it. Then when you go to the passage to read, whenever the brain or whenever you cite or spot information that refers to those keywords underlined, the brain would prick you and make you feel this is actually referring to this particular word. So when you find such area, also underline or circle those information, because that's where, around that environment is where your answer would come from, right? So after reading the questions and identifying the keywords in it, go to the passage, read the passage with keen interest in spotting or to identify paraphrased information that are referring or relating to those keywords you've identified in the questions. So as you keep reading the passage, you are underlining the information that you feel are potential answers to those questions. So you need to keep underlining while you're reading the passage. I always tell people, there is no special mark given to you if your question paper is returned being very neat. Nobody will award a special mark to you. So why don't you use the question paper and get your answers right? Why don't you do your underlinings and circlings or highlighting so that you have the confidence to say that this is where my answer is? So do all of that. When you're done reading the passage and identifying the key information, then you go back to the questions. But this time, you're taking it one question at a go. So read first question, go to the passage, scan through those highlighted areas to get your answer. Please, is it clear? Then let's quickly go to techniques. For techniques, we looked at paraphrasing. Of course, paraphrasing plays a very great role in reading tests. What should you expect during paraphrasing? Paraphrasing, of course, has to do with restating an information using synonyms or phrases that still retain the original meaning. However, in reading tests, The paraphrasing we are looking out for right here is a way of reading a question, going to the passage, and realizing that the words in the questions are nowhere to be found in the passage. But it doesn't mean that the questions are not drawn from the passage. The questions are taken from the passage. But why am I not seeing them? Why am I not seeing the words used in the question section? It is because paraphrasing has taken place. So do not always expect to see the words you have read in the question when you are going through the passage, because some of those words may be substituted or paraphrased to their synonyms. Some other time they will paraphrase those words in the question to their figures. Sometimes they use fractions or percentages, and sometimes they use general terminologies to express certain information. Mr. Moti, are we together? Are they disturbing you? Are they disturbing you? Hmm? No, tell them you are busy. Later they can. Hmm? Okay. All right. So that's how you should get yourself prepared, because some test takers will always feel that the answer to the question is nowhere in the passage. That's not true. Answers are there. All you need to do is understand that paraphrasing has taken place. So we learned about paraphrasing from words to figures, from figures to words, from words to fractions or percentages, and to general terminologies and the likes. So let's understand how this paraphrasing play out. So we looked at when you see something like $1, we said it can be paraphrased to 100 cents. $1 is equivalent to 100 cents. So for someone who has read $1 in the question and you go to the passage looking for $1, maybe either in word or in figure, and you're not seeing it, whereas what you can find is 100 cents, please understand that it's the same thing. That's paraphrased. That's the paraphrased version. We also learned that some words can be paraphrased to, for instance, a quarter, or 1/4 can 1/4, right? In percentage, it can be paraphrased to what? 25%. So you might read a quarter somewhere in the question and you go to the passage, you're seeing 25%. A quarter can as well mean 25%. Half of an entire can be paraphrased to 1/2 or 2/4, or in percentage, 50%. So it goes on, and we also went further to talk about general terminologies. For instance, something that happens every day can be paraphrased to daily or 24 hours. Something that happens every week can be paraphrased to weekly or 7 days. Every month, monthly, or 4 weeks, and on till the last part. So today, and very quickly, we looked at skimming. Skimming is one technique you need to improve on. It's one technique you must try to apply when you're treating your reading tests. Because in reading tests, you are not expected to enjoy the gist. If you want to enjoy the reading, the passages, you might not complete your reading exercise because you do not have all the time to do that. So you need to learn a skill that would help you to read at very fast pace while picking pieces of information that you need to answer your question. So that technique is what we call skimming. Now, since you're not going to enjoy the gist, you're not going to have a full knowledge and understanding of the passage, you need something that would help you to reduce or avoid reading a particular passage over time just to answer each question. So that's where underlining comes in. So while you're reading at very fast pace, when you find any information that you feel relates to the keywords you have read at the question section, you should do what? Underline those areas. So when you are done with all of your underlining, to now answer your questions, you apply the technique of scanning. Scanning, which is the practice of spotlighting or searching through a passage, just locate where an answer is situated, right? Now, the question was, as at the last time we had our training, the question was, what exactly do we scan? We scan those highlighted and underlined words or areas just to find our answer. In scanning, you don't read to understand. No. You're quickly trying to locate. I saw it somewhere. That's scanning. So we also have jotting, labeling, or making notes. Jotting, labeling, or making notes. This is where you give tags to paragraphs that you have read based on your understanding. So this jotting, labeling, or making notes are techniques that help you to answer questions on matching headings. So it helps you to avoid reading over and over. It also helps you to quickly spot the more appropriate or most appropriate heading or paragraph to the headings. So how does this play out? When you read a paragraph, there must be a particular message or information that it's trying to pass across. So when you are able to decipher or decode or spot the major information that paragraph is trying to pass across, you simply write it in your own words beside that particular paragraph. So you do this for all the paragraphs. Then when you're done labeling or tagging or jotting or making notes for each paragraph, you go to the headings. So when you read each heading, not go through the paragraphs, rather go through the headings you give to it on your own. So with that, you can compare if this heading in a way passes the same information as this. So it will help you to quickly pick or match it to a particular header. Please, do you understand this? Then, lastly, we talked about ruling or crossing out. Ruling or crossing out. So ruling or crossing out are reading techniques that help you to manage your time and also reduce your areas of search for answers. So when you read a paragraph and find your answer and you write, you are expected to quickly go and apply some strokes around that paragraph. So that when you are searching for the next answer, if you get to the paragraph that you have applied strokes already, all you need to do is skip it because it has solved a question. So, and when you find the next one, also apply it. And when you're doing that, it's reducing the areas. So you now know how many paragraphs that are left to solve your questions. Except in a situation where instruction says you may use a paragraph, you may use a letter more than once. And like I said the last time, it doesn't still stop you from applying those crossing out. Because when you apply the strokes around the paragraph, it doesn't tear off the information. It only indicates to you that this has been taken. So if at the end of the day, you are to find two answers for one paragraph, you know that it doesn't, the answers or the chances of getting two answers from one paragraph does not follow each other immediately, right? So you want to quickly go through other paragraphs before coming back. So those are the important keys we learned about in our last session. Today, let's look at reading topics. Okay. So let's look at the reading topics. These are topics you take on during your reading test. You may not have known that you are covering a number of topics during your reading test. So let's begin with matching paragraphs. Matching paragraphs is a topic I tell people that you can actually solve seamlessly.